Hey everybody, this is Deep Cut Books, where we rediscover all those great books that made us the readers we are today. We're going to kick things off with Henry Lightstone. Ken Goddard's Prey, the first book in the Special Agent Henry Lightstone series. I was 15 years old when I found this book. I remember exactly where I was. I was in Geneva, New York at a pharmacy. Mom was running an errand. I was not tagging along, doing my own thing as 15-year-olds do. I was cruising the book aisle when I see Prey, book one of Goddard's Special Agent Lightstone novels, sitting there waiting for me on the shelf. An undercover Fish and Wildlife Task Force versus a cabal of crooked politicians and industrial poachers. Small admission, I am a huge tree hugger. I like animals more than I like most people, and by the time I was 15, when I found this book, I was 100% sure that I was going to be a cop somehow. So this book pretty much had me from the jump. And at the time, I still thought working undercover would be awesome. It wasn't until I actually tried it a few years later where I quickly realized that I was not meant for undercover work. I was awful at it. Like walk into a bar and have every coke dealer in the place stand up and point and yell cop level bad. I was not made to be sneaking around buying dope from people. Back then though, 15-year-old me reading the back cover, I was all in. And here's another admission. I started Prey and then I put it down. I could not tell you why. The first 10 pages did not hook me. I don't know. I could not also tell you why I picked it back up a month or two later, only to have Prey become one of my all-time favorite books. No idea. And I wonder, have you guys ever done that? Is there anybody out there that can distinctly remember starting a book, the opening hook does not get you, and you're like, boom, toss, only to pick it back up and have it automatically become one of your favorite, like top 5 reading lists? If you have, I want to know the book, I want to know the why in the comments, and I want that right after you like and subscribe to this channel. Anyway, second time around, I absolutely devoured Prey. The follow-on novels in the trilogy, Wildfire and Double Blind, right after that. I was so into it after Prey that I got Wildfire and Double Blind in hardcover because I didn't want to wait for the paperback to come out. So why don't we take a look? Let's get into these books. Prey, 1991. Special Agent Lightstone infiltrates an illegal big game hunting operation that involves powerful politicians, CEOs, and a shadowy hit squad targeting the Green Movement. Following Prey, in Prey, we get to know Henry. Henry's recruited by this Fish and Wildlife Task Force. He becomes a member of the team, and then they, uncover this giant conspiracy, including some very dangerous people. And of course, like all good thrillers do, everything goes to hell, and it becomes a really good shoot 'em up. Action, excitement, pretty much everything a 15-year-old me needs to be able to make it through a 400-page book. Following Prey, we've got, let me see if I can do this, because I apologize, but they're all on my Kindle because my actual, my copy of Prey disintegrated probably about 10 years ago. Like, when they just kind of fall apart into 5 or 6 pieces, I had to put it down, very sadly. Wildfire, there it is, blink. Wildfire came in 1994. We get back with Henry and the team as they tackle a deadly cabal of international industrialists and financiers who've joined forces with a terrorist group bent on purifying society by fire and other means of massive destruction. What these chuckleheads wanted to do was they wanted to set fire bombs all across the most delicate points of our national forests out west and create a wildfire that would sweep the western part of the United States clean. Sadly, if you look at what happened to LA and you've looked at what happened to the state of wildfires across the country in the last few years, it's actually kind of a viable plan at this point. It seems like everything's on fire any other day, right? Death cult and greedy politicians. Can't beat it. Wildfire was actually my favorite of the 3. And I think it's because it was, whereas Prey, we had to get to know everybody, we had to get the team together, we had to get Henry kind of used to the team, get everybody's backstory, introduce what we're doing here really well. It took a little bit away from the tempo. Not that it hurt it, because you need that, right? You need to get to know who you're writing because you need to build an investment in them. In Wildfire, we had the team established, and Goddard kicked that book off with such a tempo that it just made it that much tighter, that much faster all the way through. And at this time, like I said, Goddard got to illustrate the team dynamic. That became one of the strongest parts. The trash talk, the camaraderie that we see amongst this team is something that you really start to enjoy. And by the time we get to Double Blind, the third book, in 1997, this is actually an updated cover. The original covers I thought were a little more classic, but I couldn't find one. So, and when I got it on Kindle to go over it again, this is what popped up. The originals are cool if you can find them, but that is going to be quite a scavenger hunt. If you do happen to find the originals, if you're digging through an old library sale or a garage sale or something and you find them, hit me up. I'll probably buy them off you, because all of mine, were destroyed over time. So Double Blind, sadly the last of our Lightstone novels. Henry and the team investigate a militia group, confront a ruthless congressman and his killers for hire. Yeah. Fast-paced, just like Wildfire. The tension builds up, the stakes get higher, and also there were some funny moments. Like, there's some pretty good lines throughout Prey and Wildfire, but when we get to Double Blind, Goddard had some injects there that will make you just stop and laugh. It's usually the way the team, Scobie, McNulty, Stoner, it's the trash talk. It's those moments between operations where guys who work closely together just start that trash talk, and it's very entertaining, and it kind of felt like home, coming from a law enforcement background. So you'd enjoy it. It's a bit of dark humor, but the sarcasm and wit are there, and it was kind of a nice extra layer that Goddard was able to put on that finishing touch of the Lightstone series. And before we go on, eco thrillers, right? We don't see those a lot, all right? Especially in the crime genre, the thriller genre. The idea of an eco thriller is not something we see every day. We don't often. I can't remember outside of Lightstone where we've got a bunch of the Fish and Wildlife, the game warden type stuff that streams through a series. But I will tell you, as background, there is plenty of justification and plenty of resource material for this kind of thriller. According to the Wildlife Conservation Society in 2023 numbers, unreported unregulated fisheries alone estimated between $4.2 and $9.5 billion revenue a year. Couple that with illicit wildlife trafficking, the assholes that CBP will get in customs with like 6 parrots duct taped into their jacket, or like a turtle in a car tire or something like that. I'm not making this up. This is actual stupidity that humans do to animals. Illicit wildlife trafficking is between 7.8 and 10 billion a year. Couple that with illegal timber harvesting. These are assholes that'll just go out and mow down a forest without the right kind of licensing, tearing up the ecology, tearing up habitat. That's up to estimated at 7 billion a year. So if you put them all together, it's almost $30 billion of illicit revenue annually, and that's just the stuff that you catch. Because the old axiom that you don't catch the smart ones, that actually kind of holds true in law enforcement. Don't tell anyone. So the 30 billion that we're looking at, those are the bad guys that aren't good enough not to get caught. So there is business there, and it's big business. And when you put money and criminals together, anything can happen. It's actually, when you rank them amongst like the big vices, the big enterprise crime throughout the world, it's actually just 4th. It's only 4th behind weapons trafficking, narcotics trafficking, and human trafficking. So there's plenty of fodder for the ecological thriller, and it kind of makes you wonder why we don't see more of that. But I'll tell you, Ken Goddard stuff, that this series, I miss it, and I will tell you, like I said, I started reading this when I was 15, and I still remember it. Like when I decided to start kicking off deep cut books and really appreciating those books that made me who I am, Ken Goddard was at the top of the list, and it's I put it down. I put Prey down. The hook didn't get me the first time around. I had to pick it back up, and when I did, bam! I was taken. So it was kind of wild how things happen, right? So let's get to the why. Why Ken Goddard? Why Prey? How did Prey get me? At 15, I probably was way into the premise, beating down poachers and rich assholes who are abusing animals. There's very little downside to enjoying that kind of violence and action, right? I mentioned the team. It's the way Goddard built the team. The task force, when Goddard put his time into it, he made every character its own entity. So there's no red shirts built into the plot to just sacrifice at the time needed just to move the book along, right? There's no presupposed drama there when we drop a member of the team just so that we can have our dramatic moment, get the team all pissed off so they go beat the bad guys. No, every single one of them has their own story. And they're all people you want to root for. So it's the camaraderie and that authentic feel that he brought to the series was a really big draw. And I mentioned a little bit the action, of course. Action was just tightly written, fast-paced, and again, much like the way he had his characters drawn out, the action and the operational side felt real because Goddard brought the background with him. He was a cop, started out as a deputy sheriff in California. He was a crime scene investigator, very near and dear to my heart. That is my jam. I'm a huge crime scene nerd. Eventually, and I think he might still be, lab director at the Fish and Wildlife Service Crime Lab in Ashland, Oregon. So it stands out, and you can see it from the other authors that we read today, like Jack Carr, Brad Taylor, all those guys who bring their expertise and apply it to the art. There's always a greater level of depth there that you just can't get otherwise. You can't fake it. So that Goddard just has that in spades throughout this series. And finally, Lightstone and the team. Much more of a John McClane type hero than a John Wick, right? Henry doesn't have a special set of skills he brings with him like Liam Neeson would say, and if I may, what a dumb line, so stupid. He and the crew, the task force, are just cops relying on grit and attitude and team to fight their way through when everything around them turns to shit, and it does often. That's why the books are so good. That's why the action's so crisp. Yeah, so that's pretty much the investment I had in it. It was the premise was fantastic, the team was fantastic, the characters are deep, and the action is fast. So for me at 15, still holds true. I just reviewed. I kicked off. I read Prey again the last couple months, and I'm still. A caveat to my maturity. I haven't matured since 15, so the book still gets me the same way it did the first time. So. As for Ken Goddard himself, like I said, deputy sheriff, crime scene investigator, and director of the National Fish and Wildlife Crime Lab in Ashland, Oregon. He's written several other novels. Balefire was an excellent terrorist thriller set with the Los Angeles Olympics in 1984. Alchemist, the Lightstone novels, and then he dove into the Colin Sellers series, which was First Evidence, Outer Perimeter, and Final Disposition. We're going to get to the Colin Sellers series down the road. Definitely First Evidence because, like I said, I am a giant crime scene nerd. And what Goddard did when he dove into this, he dropped the eco-thriller, dove into sci-fi from a crime scene perspective. So what do you do if you're a crime scene tech? You respond to a scene, the bad guys are aliens. What does evidence look like when it's left by an alien? What's your subject look like? How do you even know there's a crime here? Fantastic questions all, and you will love how he figures it out. So we're going to get to that down the road, but I don't want to stack up too much of any one author right out of the gate. We're just going to get through my list of the books that made me and build from there. So we're starting out with Henry Lightstone tonight, and we will get to Colin Sellers a little bit further down the road. But being a crime scene nerd the way I am, there was no way we weren't going to talk about that series. So hold on for that. When we talk about praise, how did the public react to the Lightstone novels? Kind of. They had some pretty good, some original quotes here I really did enjoy. So, out of Publishers Weekly, only the fish are neutral in Goddard's bloody, entertaining eco-thriller, not for the faint-hearted. That's impressive. Keeps a big stew pot boiling, has blow 'em all to hell kind of liveliness. That was Publishers Weekly also. Wildfire, an afterburner of a thriller, an incandescent torch that burns up the pages in a flurry of action and speed. The book reviewer in Tampa is a magician with words. Southern Oregon has never been so wild. Don't read this while commuting on the bus. You may miss your stop. Apparently, the Eugene Register Guard captures a bunch of incidents where people fall asleep or are so in depth into their books that they stay on public transit and never make it to work. I bet you that was the editor that wrote that, because a couple of his reporters always said that I missed my stop as excuses for showing up late. Could be wrong, just guessing. So there's praise. But to make sure we're balanced on everything we do here at Deep Cut Books, we're always going to look at the 1 stars too. And on Amazon, 4% of the reviews that Ken Goddard got throughout the series, 4% of those ended up being 1 star. Out of those 4%, only one of them actually decided to put anything down on paper, which I have found in my research is kind of rare, because whereas a 5-star review might be like 3 to 4 sentences, when you get to the 1-star reviews, those people like to write. Like the 1-star reviews always have the read more link at the end, and man, bam, that thing goes out to like 500 words for 1-star reviews, which we can talk about down the road. But if you don't like something, why do you put all that energy into besmirching it? We'll talk about that a little further down the road, because there's plenty to talk about as we get into more of my favorite books. As far as who was attacking Ken Goddard, Anonymous was, of course, as they always do. But it is worth reading. Although the story is an adventure and strictly fictional, I personally am not a hunter. I would never shoot any animal simply for the sport of it. Yet those characterizations are found throughout the story. The tiger charging his human prey, only to be felled by an arrow shot into his mouth. The arrow and 5 inches of its shaft sticking out of the back of the next. I didn't say that. That was them. That was a typo. They couldn't get their thought out. I had bad dreams about this kind of stuff for weeks. Not for the faint of heart. That seems to be, to me, going out of your way to virtual signal how much of a animal lover you are. And you're doing it through Amazon reviews. And I feel kind of sorry for that person. I mean, I'm very proud of you. I'm so proud of you for being, not willing to take an animal's life. But I will tell you that the audience I think you're looking for is definitely not going to surf the 1-star reviews, and they're probably not going to give you the props you were looking for by making sure everybody knows that you're against hunting when you're reading a book about poachers. Thank you for your comment. Anyway, that is the Lightstone series. Still available widely on Amazon. Hoopla. If you don't have Hoopla is a fantastic app through the libraries. You can still get the Colin Sellers series through Hoopla, and you can get all his books through Amazon. I would suggest Kindle because some of the paperbacks are probably hard to find at this point. So what we went over: Prey, Wildfire, my personal favorite of the 3, and Double Blind. All 3 of these fantastic books. I read these at 15 years old, and they have stayed in my top 5 as far as authors, and Prey is one of my top 5 favorite novels of all time. Before I go, I would like to say we'll get to Colin Sellers down the road, so we're not done with Goddard. But I want to remind you to not forget to like and subscribe, and I want you to check out my books. I'll just briefly mention Overmatch. The action, suspense, tension, all the same in Overmatch. We're just chasing Chinese spies and trying to avert a device falling into the wrong hands that can render the entire United States arsenal inert. So Henry Lightstone's not in this book. Ty Benhoff is in this book, and Petty Officer Billy West chasing down Chinese spies throughout Indonesia. All gas, no brakes, relentless pursuit until the final clash, which I'm not going to talk about because, if I may say, it is baller and you should not miss it. So like, subscribe, go check out Overmatch, and then immediately tell me what you think about it. that is it for me tonight. I can't wait to do this again. We are going to move on to the next things I got on the docket. Philip Kerr, Dean Koontz, and Joseph Barber coming down the pipe. I will talk to you again very soon. Thank you all.